How do you know you're on the right path? Well, because it's the one you're on. We got the Reggae Connection. Los Angeles to Cleveland. Using the great technology. We're going to have an awesome discussion here with David Smeltz. Oh, if you're digging the podcast, please go to danieloverberger.com and say hello. You can hit me with a donation there if you like. And I love this conversation, and let's come along for the ride. Awesome, man. We are rolling. We are here with David Smeltz. Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Smeltz. Yeah, a lot of people say Schmeltz, but it's Smeltz. You got it.
Where does that come from? Do you know?
I believe it's like German Jewish, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a story behind it.
Is there? Do you know it?
From what I've been told, my mother told me about my dad. He was okay. He was the child. His mother's last name was Smeltz. He's biracial. Okay.
All right.
He was biracial. What happened was, the story goes that his mother had an affair with this, oddly enough, a musician, black guy who's traveling across country and performing and stuff, and had an affair with him. Then she got married to a gentleman by the name of Smeltz, a Caucasian guy. So the story goes that my father was in the womb at that time, and once he was born, the Mr. Smeltz saw that his son was a little darker than he was. So so they gave him, they actually put him up for adoption. They gave him to an orphanage.
Oh,
my
far
dad.
Out.
Yeah. And but he kept the last name Smeltz, though, to remind him of his mom. So I inherited that from him.
Beautiful. And there's so many, Germans in the Cleveland area.
Yeah. This is a melting pot. Germans and Hungarians and all Slovaks.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah. That's great.
So I don't know if I'm related to any Smeltzes around or not, but I have a couple of people on Facebook who are Smeltzes, but I don't know if we're related, though. I'm related to all Smeltzes.
Right. Yeah. All people.
Yes, indeed.
So can you let's go back a little bit. Can you tell me about how do you hear of Bob Marley?
How did I hear about Bob Marley?
Yeah.
Let me see. It was actually, I first started listening to like Jimmy Cliff, because when I saw The Harder They Come,
right,
movie come out, I saw it up in Boston and at the midnight movies, and then I started listening to some more reggae, and my ears were open to other reggae artists then. And I think Catch a Fire came out at that time, and everybody was talking about this guy, Bob Marley. And he had been to Cleveland, but I missed him like in '77 or something at the Smiling Dog Cafe on West, long time ago. But I didn't really know that much about him. So I was really introduced to that first album. I think WNCR was playing, on the FM station here back then, was playing some Marley. So that's really how I first heard about Bob Marley.
Right. So, but you heard about reggae first, then from Jimmy Cliff, and you went to see this movie randomly.
Yeah. I heard songs by Millie Small, My Boy Lollipop, doing the ska thing, and Desmond Decker, he was playing, Book of Rules and stuff like that. And I dug the sound. I didn't know what you called the music, but I dug the sound. So at the midnight movies, I happened to be visiting some friends up in Cambridge, right. And they were going to the midnight movies, and just like the midnight movies in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, on Coventry, you'd see different films, like a lot of Hendrix stuff, like in Monterey and Berkeley, and what is it? Divine, and
Waters.
All sorts. There you go. Yeah, Roger Waters. Yeah. Not
John
Roger
Waters.
Yeah. I was thinking of Pink Floyd. Sorry.
Right.
Sometimes they connect up here, sometimes they don't. So you got to help me out.
Yeah. I get it.
So anyway, they were talking about this movie, The Harder They Come, and the promo for it had a poster with this gangster looking guy with a little apple hat, you know, with a gun and like bright red pants, you know, and it said it was in subtitles, you know, and I said, well, I'll go see that, you know, and I just kind of happened upon it, man. And they played. That's my life changed. I started listening to reggae after that, you know. Toots was playing on that, and you know the Slickers, Johnny Too Bad, one of the first reggae songs I ever played. GC and D, man, Johnny Too Bad, you know, and I just loved it, man. You know, loved the feel of it. You know, much later I, started getting into the spiritual vibe of it. Once I, listened to some Marley stuff and folks like that, and began to listen to some dub guys, a lot of dub and U-Roy, of course, right? So I listened to U-Roy.
Cleveland band, right?
Actually, U-Roy is Jamaican. He's a toaster.
Oh.
Yeah. Back then there were, toasters who were before like the DJs that would come out before dance hall. It was that kind of like right on the beginning of dance hall music.
Okay.
So U-Roy was like the originator. U-Roy and Big Youth.
Right.
And there were a couple cats before that. But mostly those were like the main toasters at the time, which turned into dance hall from there.
Nice. Dave,
so I was listening to everybody. Yeah.
Let me hit pause for a second.
Yeah, man.
The Zen meditation of not moving. And we're back on. Do your best, man. It's all good. So,
all right.
So you playing guitar previous to this? You already on the guitar?
Yeah, I started really playing guitar, in my grandmother's basement. Sixth grade when I was, I heard Hendrix,
Right.
And that's, need I say more?
Right.
Jim,
Yeah,
and I, I begged my mother for a guitar, an electric guitar. Of course, I wanted, like a Rickenbacker or something like that back in my sixth grade. But, something that the Beatles had,
right.
Something that John was holding.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they got me a little Taisco, from Japan, but it had a whammy bar, man.
Oh,
so
amazing.
Exactly. And I had a little amp, like an 8-inch amp, 8-inch speaker amp. And I stayed in my grandmother's basement, and I just kind of learned how to play.
Right.
I learned a few chords. I taught myself a few chords. And so I was really, like I said, G, C, and D is all I kind of needed to know from the rip, And I was able to kind of figure out some more chords. When I first started playing, doing the I-Tal thing, I really didn't know the names to a lot of chords because I just knew how to finger them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I learned eventually what some of these chords are called.
Right.
So I was playing a little bit of guitar, yeah, when I heard this music, man, because I was like, Harder They Come came out. I was probably about 17, 18 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you end up seeing Bob Marley live?
Oh, yeah. I saw him at Public Hall. Yeah.
Wow. What year is that?
Yeah. That was 70, I want to say 78 or 79.
Right.
I'm thinking 78, though.
Yeah. What do you remember about it? Anything?
Well, let me frame the show for you.
Yeah, please.
We were up in the balcony, and it was right at the beginning of I-Tal too, because we had I remember George Gordon, who was in the band, and Dave Valentine was the bass player. We all went to the show together, and Bob Caruso and myself. So I know I was up in the balcony, and up in the balcony they were passing around a lot of spliffs and joints. Well, they had mostly joints at that time.
Right.
Add them together, and it's a spliff. So we did a lot of smoking up there, and this was like the positive vibration. He started doing positive vibration. I guess it might have been the tour right around the Babylon by Bus stuff, and he's doing positive. And it was like a fantastic show from what I remember.
Right.
Now, I had later, I think Ellie, who was in the band at that time, said, well, let's go down front and get closer. And there was no way I was leaving that seat. There's no way I could leave that seat, So she went down there. And from what I understand, George, who's from Kingston, he knew Bob,
Yeah.
So George winds up going backstage and having, rapping with Bob and going back to the hotel and stuff. and I'm sitting in the,
Right.
up in the bleachers. I missed all that. The show itself was very. I do remember the show. That changed. That switched my awareness as well. To a real. I don't know. He had that mystical thing going. And a peaceful and united vibe, because everyone in the show was like just of one accord, which I think is what he was really good at doing, is bringing everybody together.
Right. Right. So you're already a band at that point when you go to see him. All those people you mentioned are in I-Tal.
Yeah. In the early band. Yeah. 78, 79.
And you guys are already doing reggae, all reggae.
Yeah. We were doing, I like to do, being from Cleveland, I like to make different songs into reggae. So, I mean, I made, like White Light, White Heat into a reggae song. I was playing White Light, White Heat in I-Tal, by Lou Reed, Velvet Underground stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was what made you guys different. And it's one of my questions, because like Cleveland, especially back in the day, if you were in a band, you're doing covers.
Right.
But you did this little twist on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And got over,
Right. And yeah, you're exactly right. We do covers, but they'd be reggaeized. We just put some reggae behind it, because you have to realize that there weren't a lot of reggae bands in Cleveland at the time. There was actually one, maybe, and that was a Jamaican band by the name of Black Lion.
Okay.
Previous to that, there was a band from Kent called Terra Plain, and they would play a few different reggae songs, but not a whole night of reggae. So we started putting twists on different songs, and people enjoyed them. We played a lot of Marley covers, but being from Cleveland, there's that rock and roll influence that came through. I mean, I arranged a version of Hey Joe, right? So it's Hey Dread instead of Hey Joe. So,
yeah, I played that at my yoga class a few times.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
All right.
So, and I saw you perform that, and even closing out with Foxy Lady, which was not really reggae.
Yeah, right, yeah. Oh, that's in Kent. Was that in Kent?
No, I saw you at Peabody's in the Flats.
Oh, okay. Very cool, man.
Yeah. There's that video on YouTube. That seemed like it could have been too late, but it feels like that's that same show.
Right.
Because you do that little Hendrix, dun, 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 whatever. I can't remember the name of that song.
Yeah. Burning of the Midnight Lamp.
Right. And then you go into it,
Yeah. So you do know about that stuff.
That's right. I do. So, what's that?
Go ahead. I was just going to say that we were, people never heard what we were doing, and I didn't really think it was anything special that we were doing. We're just kind of having fun,
right?
And it just built into something, I don't know, the beginning of a whole bunch of other stuff, I guess, for other bands.
Because I remember you doing Dock of the Bay, Nights in White Satin, Hey Joe, Hey Dread.
Man, we did all sorts of, depending on, what kind of herb there was,
right?
Or I come up with a song. I mean, we're doing Never Can Say Goodbye, Michael Jackson.
Right.
That I must say was a good arrangement that I did on.
Yeah, and was it the Sesame Street song?
Yeah, we did that too. Yeah,
right. I remember I saw there was some you played downtown on a street in Cleveland. I don't remember the year or anything, but it was like on a street, and you did the and I thought, oh, that's great, the Sesame Street song.
So what better way to spark your interest than to play something you're familiar with? Because a lot of people in the States are not familiar with that much reggae. At least they weren't at that time.
Right.
Better way to get you drawn in to the music itself by playing something that's fairly familiar and then something that's new too, the way it's styled. So it would draw folks in, and I still like taking songs and changing them into something else.
Yeah,
it's all universal.
And in looking back, it's all very obvious, and it seems like a plan and everything.
Right.
But was it a plan, or you guys were playing?
We were just playing, man.
Right.
We were playing. It wasn't a plan to have, a multiracial band.
Right.
Male and female.
Right.
A Jamaican guy in the band.
Right.
That none of that was a plan.
Right.
It just happened.
Right.
And as a result of that, it kind of gave you the idea of where we all came from. Cleveland. It's
right.
a mix. Everything is mixed up in Cleveland. You know that.
Yeah.
It's not so much black and white. Everybody's, like we were talking about Germans and Slovaks is black, white. Because I went to school in Shaker. So, and Cleveland Heights is the same way. Most of Cleveland, you'll find one of everybody somewhere. And it's not so much of a division. It's everybody together, So we just drew from what we came from,
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's funny you said making reggae kind of accessible accidentally, because I remember I think that you were my introduction to reggae. And I'll tell you this story briefly, and please interact if you care to. So, when I was really young, I played guitar pretty well, and the big thing was that I had a small PA system. So the older kids had me in their band mostly because I had a PA system.
Yes, that's usually the way it works.
Right. And they started talking to me about this reggae thing, and I don't know if they had given me a cassette of Equal Rights and Justice, the Peter Tosh album first, but at one point because I'm too young to go to the clubs, and they say, we want to take you to see this band called I-Tal down at the Coventry Street Fair.
Oh, wow.
And they said, it's reggae. And I'm like, what's reggae? And they said, well, there's a percussionist, So,
yes.
And I'm thinking it's going to be like Santana,
Right.
And I'm like, wow, I love Santana, I can't wait.
Yeah. We play part of Soul Sacrifice.
Yeah, right. So, and all that drew me in. But I remember standing in the audience because I'm from Euclid, which is a little more divided than Shaker Heights, I think, racially. I think was at least back then was a little more tension.
Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's changed as well pretty much now. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
But I remember standing there and my first thing was not about the mixed race band. My first thing was, there's a bunch of guys in my town with dreads. I didn't even know what they were, And I'm like, and I'm looking at it, and then I'm like, and there's this blonde girl playing keyboards, right. And I'm like, this is like something from another part of the world,
right?
That is right in my town, and it was like shocking, and I couldn't believe it, and. And the audience it was all this mix of people, and it was everyone was hanging out and dancing, and it was felt like safe, because there was times when I didn't feel safe in my community, you know?
Right.
And it really floored me, man.
Yeah.
It really.
See, that's that you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
please.
That's that unity thing. It's like where you come from. If you're coming from the heart, it reaches the heart. And as well as we were represented on stage by, diversity, so was the audience,
Yeah.
And the audience here is I say audience now, but once you start playing, it's you're all part of the whole thing,
Right.
So once you hear that stuff, man, you just relax and just have a good time. And I don't think I don't believe there were any other bands doing that vibe. Bringing everybody together.
No. So then, and I don't know if you're okay with this or not, but you are the godfather of Cleveland reggae. And
That's what they say.
right. And check this out. Of all places in the world, Cleveland is a reggae town, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of you.
Oh.
I don't mean to throw that on you so much, but because when I come to LA, people are like, how does a teenage boy in Cleveland get into reggae, man? Because there was no internet, right? You didn't just like find these things. You can go to a music store. Maybe it's not even in the same section. You got to go to the world music section.
Yeah. World music. Exactly.
It's like, why are you going to go over there? Right. You know?
Right.
And it's so like to be able like to the accidentally falling to see you guys, like just telling these older kids, yeah, I couldn't drive, yeah, I'll go. And then just to be like, I mean, I eventually went to see, I eventually got a driver's license, which then I could have changed to say that I was old enough to go to the clubs. Right. So then I could go see you guys as an underage kid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I would go to the flats, Peabody's in the flats, Peabody's down under, and then whenever there were public shows.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because there's an I-Tal Facebook page that I kind of facilitate, and I've gotten comments before by people who have said that you guys really turned me on to reggae. Really influenced me. The first reggae band they heard, and a lot of changed their lives. We're no miracle workers, but I can see how just a good feeling can help you along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
It leaves an impact because you're in a world where it's just chaotic stuff most of the time. If you feed into that stuff, then you're chaotic as well. Just to have an oasis where you can dance and enjoy yourself and feel safe, man, I'd remember that too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And then another thing that I noticed, and I don't know if I noticed it on that first gig, which was the Coventry gig. Not most reggae bands don't have as many guitar solos.
Hey. From Cleveland.
Yeah, right. Is that a Cleveland thing?
Yeah, that's a Cleveland thing. That's what we came out from. And another thing is that to get that many people who liked reggae to begin with, because each member of the band, in one form or another, had heard about reggae and liked reggae, So for everybody to be able to say, yeah, Bob Marley, why don't we do Lively Up Yourself? How do you know that song? Oh, well, I listen, because when we first got together, I had a little band that never saw the stage except for one time. And we went and we did this audition at the Coach House in Cleveland. It turned into Isabella's, but it was the Coach House. And the owner of the Coach House came up afterward. His name's Dave Valentine, and he said, "You guys sound great." And we were playing. I was playing a couple of reggae. What was I playing? Johnny Too Bad, of course.
Right.
And he came up and said, "Oh, you guys like reggae?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You sound pretty good. So you just need one thing." I said, "What?" He said, "You need a bass player." I said, "Oh, okay. You know why?" I said, "Yeah, I play bass." I said, Dave had a jukebox, the only jukebox in Cleveland that had all reggae 45s in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that union right there alone. So he knew the feel of playing reggae bass.
Right.
From the rip.
Right.
And we'd be listening to these 45s because he'd go to Key West, and come back with all these reggae 45s and put them in his jukebox.
Right.
So we're listening to, John Holt and the Paragons, Wear You to the Ball, right? And there was a real, one of the first versions of Ja Live by Marley on a 45 he's got in his jukebox,
Right.
And so it's like this whole reggae thing just started to spring up. Then I got a job later at Record Revolution where I had access to all reggae albums.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and I had, a few excursions over in Jamaica, where I, pick up 45s and come back. Anything reggae I could possibly attain, I would get, because I couldn't get enough of it. Even in Cleveland, there is a place called Daly's. Daly's is a West Indian restaurant. They've got great rice and peas, curry goat, and all the above, right? And in the day, in 77, 78, they were selling reggae. They were selling, LPs. They sold 12-inch, they call them disco versions.
Right.
The 12-inch discos, right? So you'd have the song, which lasted for about 6 or 7 minutes on one side, and then the dub version on the flip side.
Right.
With, somebody like Prince Muhammad rapping over it, So a guy named, I think Beanie, had one of the first like Jamaican disco DJ setups. So he used to do a lot of DJing. So we used to get, go up there. I used to go up there and get albums all the time, man, and just learn all this stuff. And, I think I learned how to speak a little bit of Patois just by listening to all these records. And hanging out with George,
Yeah, right. That's so funny that George is transplanted into Cleveland from Jamaica.
Yeah,
and
from Kingston.
And forms this band with you,
Yeah.
So I was thinking about what you said about how everyone in the band was like, they knew about reggae and they were into reggae, which was kind of rare. And it made me think of the Ramones. Because the Ramones in New York, they're like 4 people in New York owned Iggy Pop's the Stooges albums. And those 4 people were the people that formed the Ramones.
Oh, that's like the same thing,
It isn't right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's so.
Yeah,
it's funny, man.
Yeah, it's because Ellie, she was listening to Burning Spear, and listening to Patti Smith was doing some stuff, and she liked Patti Smith a lot. And Patti Smith she did a couple of reggae songs. I can't remember what they were, but
Yeah, well, I remember and it didn't sound like a reggae song. It still doesn't, but Clapton, but that was quite a bit. That was later for you, right? You were already into it.
Yeah. Clapton was a little bit later. Yeah, well, he did, Marley's "I Shot the Sheriff."
Right.
He did that and some other stuff. But any other, American bands that were doing reggae commercial, American. I don't remember any around that time, really. There's like, 10cc playing, I don't like reggae, I love it.
Right. You guys were the first. It's very abstract, that like the first kind of American reggae band comes out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
That's
now,
please.
No. You're getting me excited about it,
Yeah, well,
because I don't really think about it, the Godfather, reggae, and all that stuff. But we really did do something that was one of a kind. It was the first of its kind.
Yeah, and it's probably you probably don't think about the impact you had on society and the people around.
Right, not at all.
You guys are just enjoying playing.
Yeah.
And was it successful right away?
I would have to say yes. Once we started playing, because remember Dave at the Coach House, and also living at the Coach House when we met Dave Valentine.
Right.
It was Gare Linhart. Gare lived upstairs. That's Buzzy's brother, Buzzy Linhart's little brother. And Gare played harp on a lot of he was in the band as well. So we had our own home of I-Tal to play in. Okay, because the Coach House was located right around Western Reserve University.
Oh yeah. What's the radio station there?
Case is WRUW.
Right.
Yeah, Case Western Reserve. Yeah.
Right.
So we're right in the middle of a college area. There was like another club called like the Brick Cottage on Euclid, had a lot of blues and stuff going on there. But the Coach House, had different bands playing there all the time. Like the Pagans. You remember the Pagans?
No.
Pagans were like early Sex Pistols type of
Oh
folks.
wow. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
wait, I think I did hear of them.
Yeah, Pagans, yeah.
Right.
So the Pagans used to play there, and even David Thomas. David Thomas played there a few times.
Okay.
Yeah, in Perubu, yeah. So the Coach House is known for having diverse bands, and we were the only reggae band in town that played there. So we had a home. The students would come and dance, and we'd pack the place, man.
Right.
And I mean, early, we played all the time, but we always had a crowd. People were just digging the vibe and word of mouth. And then we started playing, going out of town, Akron, universities, and, Ohio University down in Athens. And because it's really our biggest audience were university, students to begin with.
Right.
Kind of spread the word. And we had a 45. We made a 45 in '78. It was Brown Eyed Girl, a reggae version of Brown Eyed Girl.
Oh, I don't think I've heard that.
Oh, really? I might have a 45 for you.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the other side is a song Close to the Wire with a Gary Linhart wrote. His brother Buzzy Linhart produced it, and so we had this 45 that was on the jukebox at a place called Licks, which was the ice cream place in University Circle where all the kids used to go, and so now we've got a 45 and people were listening to the 45, and we were really getting a good crowd, and it just built from there.
Yeah, so many things just lined up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely.
It's amazing. Yeah. David, do you mind if we take like a 3-minute break so I can hit save on this and then use the bathroom?
Sounds good. Yeah.
I love hearing all these stories and telling some of the stories and sharing back and forth. Here in East Hollywood, where Bukowski used to walk the streets, where you can hear the sirens from the hospital down the street. It's gotten to be real special to me, and I thank you for coming along for the ride. Again, you can go to danieloverberger.com if you want to hit me with a donation and help support the podcast. Also, there's a shop section there. And as most of you know, I'm a yoga teacher in Los Angeles. You can find me teaching at Runyon Canyon. I've been there for like almost 15 years, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30. And then I do my black market yoga classes at 7 down the street. That information will be on the website as well. We do it to music and mostly in the dark, and some nights we'll do a theme, like, we'll have a specific artist and we'll really explore their music as we do yoga and let the music kind of reach us on a different level as we're altering our consciousness through the practice of yoga. Also, I'm available for private and corporate. So what does corporate yoga mean? You can bring me into the workplace. I already do this, and your boss can pay me, and I'll come and I teach the whole staff. It's great. And again, you can find all that stuff on my website. And like everyone says, please share. Please subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating and even give us a review if you like. Thanks a lot, and let's get back to it, all right? All right. Back on record, but
Okay.
Everything lines up.
Yeah, everything lines up for our benefit.
Right.
Now, when I was out there in the middle of addiction, I didn't think anything lined up for nothing.
Right.
I had to, because the world sucked, you sucked, everybody sucked.
Right.
But I find that being clean and sober and allowing things to take place and run their course, that there actually is something, I don't know what it is, that wants to align up to goodness.
Right.
Align up to the most positive aspect for us.
Right.
At least that's what I believe. And I'm not going to get into any kind of God thing or anything like that, but I only feel this because of being able to experience it and being open enough to even believe that there's a possibility that it could happen anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before, my mind was just
But it was still happening even then.
right. But I didn't notice.
Right. Right.
Who could have told me that being a heroin addict would be great?
Right.
But the other side of it, I had to go through that, to get through to where, I love life now, man.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, and you're talking about self-will, the opposite of self-will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Will of the universe, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I think it's the nature of all beings. I mean, look at animals or anything. I mean, everything flows the way it's supposed to flow.
Yeah.
And if I believe that death is a bad thing, then I'm going to be pissed off all my life because eventually I have to die. And what am I going to do with all my crap I collected? Right.
Right. Exactly.
So if I look at things that I think are bad as being, well, maybe it's not bad. It's just something I need to get through the next spot where I could either help somebody else or be helped myself.
Right.
And looking at it that way, it seems more and more positive things happen, or at least for the benefit of all involved,
Yeah. That's a hard thing to lay on people, and it's a hard thing it's almost like it needs to be thrust upon you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and is that like a bottom of some kind, emotional, spiritual?
You talk about that dark night of the soul, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that, at least for me, to have to be stripped. I say stripped of everything, but I relinquished everything. I let everything go. I was trying to hold on to stuff,
right,
but I let it go. It was just like admitting that I'm an addict. Admitting that to myself. Which is something you don't want to admit that to yourself because you don't want people thinking you're an addict. I have more. I was brought up better than that.
Right, I'm in control. I'm in control here.
Exactly.
Right.
Our connection is gone visually, but
I still hear you audio.
Okay, I'll just keep talking.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, the connection. Once I lost everything that I thought was worthwhile to me, that made me that self-image, band, because even the band after later years became an identification of myself, of me,
Right.
The band was me, and this is me, and this is me, and I'm this, and I'm that. And having to lose all that identification, when you're left with nothing, either you accept it or you continue to fight and live on memories that are no more.
Yes.
And stay stuck.
Right.
So so once everything was gone, I surrendered, to the inevitable. That's when my life started to change, because that's when I started to allow new knowledge to come in,
Right.
All the things that I thought of previously sure weren't working for me. So when I surrendered to it and I allowed people to have input in my life started to change.
Right. Is there a way to teach people this without them having to hit a bottom?
I would, I don't know. I would say so. Yeah, right. I would think so. Especially, like through, I'm sure yoga has been doing that for years, I would think.
Yeah.
Meditation. There are certain tools that we can all use that'll bring us closer to the realization that we are not who we think we are.
Right.
My only thoughts about it is, being younger at the time when I thought that I was invincible, then why would I need anything else?
Right.
So I believe the mindset that you're in has a lot to do with whether you're willing to change or not.
Right. You have a meditation practice?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Right.
Every day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 before I go to bed, and carrying that, excuse me, carrying that between meditations too. In other words, throughout the day, staying in that calm space,
right?
Attempting to,
yeah.
but also knowing that when I get twisted or bent out of shape, that all it takes is to get quiet and watch my breath,
Right.
So it can take me back to where I need to be. I was doing some formal sitting at the Cleveland Buddhist Temple for a while, but it's now a church. So, but that didn't stop the meditation practice.
Right.
Meditation, I have found for me, is the best thing that could ever have happened. It's like watching TV. I get to watch these thoughts go on in my head, and I get to watch them go by, and not attach to them.
Right. Because some of them, for me, so they're not always friendly.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Most of them aren't friendly.
Right.
Hardwired for negativity anyway,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's just like, when playing in the band, 20 people can say, man, you sounded great. And one person will say, man, I don't know, you're kind of off tonight. I dwell on that one person, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Right.
So that ingrown neural pathway that leads to negativity. Once I start changing my actions, every time something negative pops up, and immediately change it to something positive. This is very simplistic, but it reroutes that whole path of negativity.
Right.
And it's a consistent thing. I mean, just because I sit and try to do the next right thing doesn't mean I don't have negative thoughts. They're not as homicidal anymore. Fortunately.
Right. That's the hard part, because it's like this continued job. People think, well, I'm just going to get this meditation thing and then I'm good. Right. But it's a continuing. You got to do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's another thing that can sidetrack us from continuing with the practice is expectations of what meditation will do for you.
Right.
If I expect, my blood pressure is going to go down. They told me my blood pressure is going to go down if I start meditating. And I meditate for a week and say, my blood pressure is still like, 5,000 over 60,
Right.
Then, I lose interest in meditation because it's not working.
Yeah. Why didn't it fix everything in a week?
Right. Exactly. Because we're so caught up on instant gratification anyway.
Right. Right.
If we could microwave some, meditation, we do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. For sure. And
sit in the microwave for an hour, I'm meditating, man.
Right.
So we set ourselves up for failure by expectations. The higher my expectations, the more my anxiety. And so I would say just continue to sit.
Yes.
Because what I have found personally, and I try to state things from my personal experience, what I have found is the more that I sit and not worry about what kind of benefits I'm going to receive, it's the more benefits that pop up that I don't even know I have, it was like when I got sober, the obsession of wanting a drink and dope all the time. Once I started working this recovery thing in steps and getting busy in sobriety, I remember being in an Orca house, and there was a day that I said, you know what? I haven't thought about having a drink or a drug in a while now. And I think it's the same thing. Once you get busy working on the solution to the problem, if it's either recovery, meditation, once you get busy working on the solution, then the solution starts to work whether you recognize it or not.
Right.
Other people may recognize it in you before you do.
That's a big true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Far out, man.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go back a tiny bit. We'll come back to some of this meditation, I think.
Okay.
Did the success freak you out of I-Tal?
It didn't freak me out. So, well, did it? No, because it seemed like a natural type of thing.
Right.
It didn't seem like it seemed like it was kind of supposed to happen.
Right.
You know, I don't know if that sounds like, you know, self-centered or not, but it just flowed like that. What freaked me out was the more that I started to play gigs every night without a break, and allowed myself to access, like, you know, lots of coke and things like that to keep moving.
Right.
That's when that's when the fun stopped. That's for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard physical schedule, even for a 20 something that, you know, when I was on the road, I was not 20. I hadn't been 20 in a long time.
Yeah.
And, it's a physically hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
And and I don't normally even drink coffee, but when I'm on the road, I'm drinking coffee every day.
Right. Just to keep up with the schedule. I mean, because we were talking about it earlier about being, you know, early in the morning, you know, before noon is early for musicians.
Right.
And why? Because we play late at night, you know, and we have that night kind of lifestyle just because that's what we do, and that's the hours that we play. And I'm sure you're just like me, that once you play, you're pretty revved up afterward. You know?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to go to sleep, you know. So the way I used to go to sleep, drink a 12-pack of beer, and you know, but you know, and then to wake up, do coke, you know. You know, so and not all musicians have to do that. You know, there are musicians who can, like you said, drinking coffee just to get through the gigs and not resorting to mood and mind altering substances. But what I got into was just you know, up and down, just trying to stay there and go to the next gig.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, man, it wasn't that much fun. You know, the spiritual part of it, the feeling the music. You know, I can remember early in playing in 78, like I said, in 77, 78, 79, not even having to smoke any herb, not having to take a drink, and just feeling high playing.
Right.
You know? And that's what I feel like now.
Oh.
It's a natural, it's a buzz, man.
Great.
You know, but back then it progressed to adding something on top of that, you know, and it kind of, you know, cut off the transmission, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know?
And so it's interesting that you said how it feels now. It's going back to the beginning. So I have this connecting factor I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And it's only from a distance that I'm seeing this connecting factor. And that connecting factor is a red Les Paul.
Ooh.
Right? Because the story I understand is that at some point you pawn it, and everything disappears, but the Les Paul remains and regains its kinship with you later. Wow.
And when you say, man, you're telling me you are my mirror. Thank you. Seriously, because I don't think about this. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't think about how blessed I truly am.
Well, we never do, probably. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, the guitar, man, I had a few guitars that I pawned, you know, just to get cracked, man.
Right. And,
you know, I pawned a really old Vox Wah-Wah, you know, it's like out of the 60s, man. And Space Echo, you know, lots of PA stuff. I had another Les Paul that I pawned, a 73 Les Paul. Never got that back. I had a Flying V that I pawned and never got that back. But I pawned my first real electric guitar that I bought from Mayfield Music in 1978.
Right.
And it's been with me ever since. And if you see any pictures of me playing an electric guitar, you'll see that guitar. I pawned that, and I was able to get that back when I got into treatment. The pawn shop would send little slips to me, little letters to me saying, "Well, we're getting ready to keep this guitar. You better get it now, or it's going to be gone." And they did that with the other guitars. And I said, "Well, I don't have any money to get it out." When I was in treatment, I showed my mother this one slip, saying, and she said, "Isn't that your guitar?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, don't you want to get it out?" I said, "I don't have any money." So she got it out of pawn for me.
Oh, far out.
Yeah.
What a
Dave Valentine got it out a couple of times for me too. My bass player.
Right.
He got it. Yeah.
It's beautiful how that hung around.
Yeah.
You never know. So are you still doing the clean house work?
Yeah. We still have clean house.
Tell me like I don't know what that is, so that the listeners know.
Clean House is a nonprofit that I started back in 2010, I believe. It's transitional housing for recovering addicts and alcoholics. When I was getting sober, I was at a treatment center named Orca House for 104 days. Then I went directly to a place that they call transitional housing, which is a sober environment, called the PASS program, run by the Salvation Army. At the PASS program, they provided food. You didn't have to work for a while. They just want you to work on getting sober. They had meetings there. They had attorneys there to help you with legal problems. They just want you to get used to building a foundation in sobriety. And that's what I did. And when I was there in my bunk, I remember saying, someday I'm going to try to give back and do the same thing for some other folks, And the opportunity finally came when I had a plan for starting the nonprofit, calling it Clean House, which acronym for Changed Lives, Empowered, and New.
Nice.
Yeah. And I later found out that the initials for Clean House Incorporated, CHI, of course.
Oh, far out.
Because
in your book, there's a picture of you sitting on that bed, I think.
Oh, yeah, on the bunk, yeah.
Yes.
As in a room with other guys, yeah.
So you kind of like are making a deal there. You have an epiphany there about what you want to do.
Yeah. Because I had been, when I got into recovery, I was willing to give up whatever it took to stay sober.
Right.
Even music. I wasn't thinking about playing music anymore. That was the last thing on my mind. It was like, how badly, they used to ask me, how badly do you want to be sober? What would you do to stay sober? I would say anything. Right. And anything means, being away from my kids, being away from my family, not playing music. Because like I said, music was the identity,
Right.
So I was ready to sacrifice all that and maybe not play anymore in order to stay sober. So
was that a real raw time for you? Like,
yeah, very much so. It helped me learn how to trust in a power greater than me. That's why I was talking about this power that is all for our goodness, because once I surrendered and allowed other people to help me, because that's another thing that guys don't like to do, is say that they need help.
Yeah, don't ask for directions when you're driving.
Exactly. I remember driving around with my ex-wife looking for a party a long time ago, and I couldn't find it. I kept driving around the block. So why don't you ask somebody? I said, no, it's here somewhere. It's around here somewhere. I'm not asking some other guy. Are you kidding me? But until it got to that point where, all the things that my best thoughts got me into the treatment center. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to ask somebody else, if I see somebody else staying sober, and it only makes sense to ask them, how do you stay sober and can you help me?
Yeah.
And to get to that point of asking someone to help you, at least for me, took a lot of surrender and just saying, I don't know anything, just please help me. And that's when my life started to change,
Yeah, that's hard because I remember, and going back to me doing the yoga thing, which we talked a little bit about in the break. This was like running a business.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Cleveland. I don't know how to run a business. My dad worked for the man. My mom was, but my mom was a librarian. So I said, well, I'm not going to ask anyone how to run a business. It doesn't even come to my mind to ask for direction. So
Right.
I go to the library and I just start
Yeah.
like reading these books. Okay, how do I figure this out myself? But we don't have to figure things out by ourselves.
Right. Right. There are plenty of people who already have the information, already
Right.
have the knowledge. It's like if I want to learn English, I don't go to a carpenter. I go to someone who's teaching English, right?
Yeah.
So I need to go to they call them mentors. If I can find a mentor, someone who has been through what I want to get to and through. So if I want to stay sober, I go to someone who's staying sober and ask them how they got sober.
Right.
Just asking for help, man, it's an amazing thing. I thought it was like, I should have done this years ago. Just ask people.
Right. So I want to, what's that?
Because I don't know everything,
No, who does?
Yeah, exactly. But I can get insight from other people's, perspective, which
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to draw this big circle and I'm going to see what happens. So, and you can tell me what you think. So, cause when I saw you in Coventry, so many years ago as just a teenager who was hanging out with the older kids, I felt like I was in this kind of safe place, which on some level you created with your people, you and your people created. So you go through this experience of drug addiction, and then you go through the experience of getting clean. And what you do, again, is you create a place called Clean House, which is, again, creating a safe place for people. So to me, I'm seeing a connection there. Do you see a connection there?
I do now. I told you you're my mirror.
Right.
I don't think about this stuff. I just kind of do the next right thing.
Right.
Yeah. Man, yeah. When you put it that way, it's still the being able to be of assistance,
Right.
some kind of way, through experience.
Yeah.
It's one thing in reading a book and trying to help somebody with the knowledge that you have from a book. It's another thing living something from your heart and then trying to help from your heart, I think. Clean House, we have two guys there right now. We have meetings there. I teach martial arts on Tuesdays with another gentleman named Martin, who's a resident, who's actually a monitor at the house. And as I said, the meetings are 3 times a week there. And when I'm there and teaching and going to the meetings, I see me.
Right.
I am not that far removed from being newly in recovery or being in active addiction.
Right. And for the listeners, when you say meetings, you mean 12-step meetings.
Yeah, 12-step
Right.
meetings. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when I'm I go to 12-step meetings a lot because this is what really saved my life.
Sure.
And I like to continue to be involved in the recovery process because I have seen from personal experience, I've seen folks who get sober and then life starts going very well for them. And they forget what happened for them to get to where they are. And I never want to forget where I was,
Right. So, yeah, we don't want to go into relapse or whatever.
Right. So I stay consistent with the process of recovery, and being able to help some folks helps me.
And what's funny is it's funny that reggae for me started in Cleveland by some weird accident. And did the 12 steps start in Ohio?
Ooh, Akron, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
far out.
Yeah, yeah, Akron, Ohio, and between Akron and New York, I think Bill W. was in New York, and mostly Akron though, Akron, Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who would have thought that there's like the home of AA is 45 minutes away from Cleveland, where
yeah.
I needed it most.
Right. Everything it was is in reach, but we just can't see it.
Right. Oh my gosh, you said that right. Yep. Yep. Can't see the forest for the trees, man.
Right. So let me ask you about 12 step. Just and this is a kind of a vague question, but it has what is the power of 12 step?
Okay. The power of 12 steps for me, and I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everyone else and
Please.
what their experience is with it. But the power with me is the very first step is admitting that I'm powerless over whatever substance. And substance, I mean, that can be gambling, it can be sex, it can be whatever. Whatever that I have made my higher power or my God,
Right.
my go-to for everything, right? So I have to find out that I'm powerless, admit to my innermost self that I'm powerless over that, and my life's unmanageable as a direct result of that substance or whatever it is. And once admitting that, that's the surrender part of it, because I never want to admit, like I said before, I was an addict or alcoholic. Of course, in high school, I'd say, when I throw up on somebody's couch, I'm an alcoholic, ha 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 ha.
Right.
Little did I know, but admitting to my innermost self that I have no control over. Once I put it in me, I have no control over it. The second step tells me I come to believe in a power greater than myself that can solve, that can solve my problem. And coming in to believe in a power greater than myself, my first power greater than me was probably the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or the 12-step program folks, because they knew how to stay sober, and that was a power greater than me.
Right.
They have a step as the third step, making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God, and that's just turning my will and my life, my thoughts and my actions rather, over to a power greater than myself. And as I said, that was the rooms, and even my first sponsor, was a power greater than me because he knew how to stay sober.
Right.
Then they have a fourth step about making. I have to admit to that's the fifth step. The fourth step, I have to make a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. And what an inventory helped me do was see some of the aspects of myself that my belief system that kept getting me, pissed off at people and getting me in trouble. My belief system tells me that, the cops are after me all the time because I'm black. Well, I look at my situation and the whole thing, and I find out that they're not after me because I'm black. It's because I keep running stop signs and hitting trees with my car. So I, but I'm not looking at myself. I don't have to do an inventory. You're the people who are wrong.
Right.
So doing a fourth step helped me realize that, one thing my sponsor told me that I always go back to is, what part did you play in it? Right. And I have to look at what part I play in situations, because I always used to blame you.
Right.
And the thing is, if I always blame you, if you're always the problem, then I'm always going to have a problem. And the problem is going to be with you, right?
Right.
I can't do anything about you.
Right.
So I found that I have to do something about me and the way I respond, or react rather, to situations and people. So I found all these things in my fourth step, and then I admit my wrongs to a person, to God, myself, and another human being. And I did a fifth step with my sponsor, and my innermost secrets I told to this man.
Right.
And just to free myself. And once I did that, I felt much lighter. I still have amends. The next process is making amends to people. that I've harmed. I still have amends to make. I made amends to my mom before she passed, and to my ex-wife, and I make living amends as well. One of the many living amends I make is to my mother by staying clean and sober.
Right.
Now they say you can't stay sober for somebody else, and I do believe that is true. So I know that I'm staying sober for myself, but one thing that I promised her was that I'll be sober, and it's okay for you to leave. I'll be okay. So I do that for her.
Beautiful.
Well, yeah. So I make amends, and making amends just doesn't mean I'm sorry. I remember going up to my ex-wife and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry." She said, "Yeah, I know you're sorry. You're a sorry son of." So I got to make restitution. I got to give back what I took away. If it's like, credit cards, MBNC, which I owe them some money. I had to pay it back. I owed my ex-wife some money. I had to pay her back. I have to make restitution. What I took away from my daughters, being a decent father, I try to be as best the father I can at a long distance,
Right.
but as best the father that I can, it's all about change. And there's a 10th step, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. So now I get to look at myself on a daily basis. So I take my inventory, just like when I'm driving down the street and I'm running late somewhere, and there's the little old lady in front of me, and she's driving really slow, and I'm pissed off behind her, right? So I have to take inventory. Rather than being pissed off, honking my horn and giving her the finger, I have to, which I used to do all the time. I have to look at myself. Well, why am I pissed off about this? Well, because I'm running late and I have to be somewhere. Well, why didn't you leave the house earlier? Because,
Yeah.
So I have to look at myself. I can't put the blame on you. I have to put it on myself, So I look at myself on a daily basis, and take responsibility for my actions, not yours. 11th step tells me, sought through prayer and meditation to continue our conscious contact with the God of our understanding, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. I get on my knees in the morning and ask this power to keep me clean and sober. At night, I say thank you. I've done it ever since I was at Orca House, and I'm not going to stop doing it.
Right.
Meditation, we spoke of meditation, how much that helps. I'm able to quiet myself and take meditation through the day with me. If I try to, the simplest prayer I can say is, "Thy will be done," whoever Thy is, universe or whatever, that will be done.
Right.
And allow it to take its course, because that takes the pressure off of me. And I just try to do the next right thing,
Yeah.
12th step tells me, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The principles that they're talking about is a spiritual principle within every step. The first step is, this spiritual principle is honesty, getting honest, being truthful. There are these 4 principles called the 4 absolutes, which are honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. Honesty, is it right or is it wrong? Purity, no. Honesty, is it true or false? Purity, is it right or wrong? Unselfishness, how does it affect the other? How does it affect the other person? And love, is it ugly or is it beautiful? So I have to use that as a barometer as well. So the principles within every step, if I'm working the steps on a daily basis, that means I'm working on spiritual principles on a daily basis.
Right.
The spiritual awakening is nothing more than a personality change significant enough to recover from alcoholism or whatever ism you have.
Right.
I'm no longer the same jerk that I used to be. and as I said, other people notice a change before I notice any kind of change. I actually like people today.
Nice.
I actually talk to people. Yeah, and being around folks. I actually enjoy it. Now, don't mind you, I love quiet time with me and a power greater than myself. I love because I get to recharge my batteries that way.
That's so necessary. It's so necessary.
Oh man, most definitely. I know that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the awakening, spiritually is just that I'm awakened to spiritual principles. I'm awakened to spiritual things. I can go out and I can drive behind the car and I can see a license plate, and the license plate says "Thank God" or something, THKGD or something, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm awake to possibilities of messages coming from a different dimension, shall we say,
right.
Which is a spiritual dimension.
Of course.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, and I'm awake to things coming for our betterment. Just as I told you, you were a mirror for me. That was a realization of exactly the process of the whole I-Tal recovery thing coming together. That you brought that right into my lap, so I could see that. Not being spiritually aware, I couldn't see anything like that.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple more things. So, the Clean House is a nonprofit, so you take donations for that?
Yes, we do. We do.
What is the website if someone wanted to donate to your facility?
Yeah, www.cleanhouseinc.org.
Great.
Cleanhouseinc.org. Yes, we welcome all donations. I'm planning excuse me. We usually have a benefit called House Fest that we have every year. This would be the 8th one coming up, I think. So we're in the planning stages of that. That's a good fundraiser for us.
Do you know the date on that?
Not as of yet. No, it's probably going to be. I'm thinking October sometime.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll have it on the website. We'll advertise it on the website.
That'll be on the Clean House website?
Yes, and also maybe on my website too.
Oh, okay. What's your website?
DavidSmeltz.com.
Nice. Can you get your book on DavidSmeltz.com?
As a matter of fact, you can. And I have a new CD out as well. And that's available on my website too.
What's the new CD called?
It's called Recovered.
Right. And is that on like iTunes and Spotify as well?
Yeah, it's on Spotify. Yeah, and I believe it's on iTunes and Google and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And let me go one more time. So it's davidsmeltz.com. It's cleanhouseinc.com. .org. And I'm going to put these in the show notes so that anyone wants to access this and either leave a donation or if they purchase your book, it also goes towards Clean House, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Right.
Everything goes to Clean House. The CD, purchase of the CD go toward David Smeltz so he can make another CD.
Yeah, we need to do that. Right. And do you sell any of the I-Tal stuff on that website?
No, but I'm telling you, people have been really asking about getting some more I-Tal stuff out. Getting CDs, old I-Tal tapes and stuff, because there's some tapes out that if we just put them together, there was somebody selling I-Tal T-shirts, not sanctioned by I-Tal, but they were selling.
I saw that. But I-Tal is on iTunes. And
yeah, I heard we were.
And I think it's on Spotify too. So but it's called I-Tal USA at this point, right?
Yes, I-Tal USA.
Which is also your Facebook is I-Tal USA.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it might be I-Tal USA.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I'll try to put that in the show notes as well. Okay.
Yeah, the difference between I-Tal and I-Tal USA. When some band members left I-Tal, I kept I-Tal, and I just had some different members come in from some guys from Kent and some guys from Columbus, and we were still I-Tal. We went to Jamaica and we played Jamaica, and there's a band called the I-Tals in Jamaica.
Right.
And I've got a great story about that, but you want to hear it? You got time?
Yeah, please.
We we went with I-Tal to Jamaica to play, and we were in the grill up on the West End by the cliffs, staying up there. And this was a time when MTV Spring Break, they were filming down there, and so they were all down there. So we came out of our place up at we were walking down the beach. We came out of our place, and a limo came by, and he said, "You guys I-Tal?" We said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, hop in. We'll take you down the beach." Said, cool. So he took us down the beach, and we're down there drinking Red Stripes and partying down there, and we see these guys coming down the road, and they've got like dry cleaning bags, like clothes that they're carrying over their shoulders, and they're walking. These three guys, and they come in, and it's the I-Tals, and they go, they go, yeah, somebody took our limo. And how awful. So we long story short, after a few Red Stripes, we were all friends again. But I started to call ourselves I-Tal USA, as to differentiate between the I-Tals and I-Tal.
And when this was all in Jamaica.
All in Jamaica, yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, Arthur's Golden Sunset over a few beers, yeah.
Beautiful. David, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the music and all of that. And I appreciate you coming and taking the time to talk to me here.
Daniel, thank you so much, man. As I said, you're a light. You keep shining. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend.
Oh, you too, for sure.
To this world, please. Okay.
Thank you, man.
All right, my brother.
Peace, and we're signing out. Everyone, please share, subscribe, and send the podcast to your friends and give us a rating on iTunes. And that is it. Thank you, David, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Peace.
Peace. Oh, man, that was great. I hope you got from the conversation what a great impact David had on my life, getting to see him perform at such an early age. Well, anyways, after we finished up our conversation, he sent me tracks from his new album. And I said, hey, man, can I play that at the end of the podcast? And he said, yeah. So we're going to listen right now to a brand new song from David Smeltz called Inside on the Outside. And all right, man, rockin', and thank you so much for hanging out.